And we're live.
We're live.
Hello,
We've
everyone.
been live. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode. We've actually, I know it's been a while. We've been actually streaming, but since Tyler took over the tech part, he forgot the crucial record button. Or the stream start now button.
Yeah.
We've lost a year of content. So you'll never see that season. It's the lost season, we'll call
Yeah,
it.
it's the last season. And the
Yeah.
DVDs, though, in the future are going to be highly valuable. We'll probably only put it out on VHS just to,
Yeah, dude,
to
we're
have a
putting
little
out on
Mystery
beta,
Science
man.
Theater feel to everything. But
Beta or
yeah,
bust. Beta or bust.
we did
Beta tape or
about,
bust, dude.
well, how many did we do? Like 90, 98, 99 episodes?
Yeah, it was easy. It was easy. It was
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah. Good stuff. Good
Remember?
stuff, guys.
Yeah, yeah.
That church ceiling that I painted, man, I got to
That
say,
was
looking back on it,
not not your best work. Yeah,
not my
I agree.
best. Yeah, not a
Not
good
your best.
mural,
No, no, no,
and it's
no.
okay because no one's gonna really see it. And
Well, that church is at Denny's now because of the mural. So,
yeah, so you know, sorry about that to all the congregation, but the Denny's part of it's pretty good actually. It's one of the better Denny's that I've been to. So well,
Why, how you
uh,
been, man?
good. How about you?
I've been great. I've been great. I've been missing the show,
Me too,
so I'm
man.
super excited to get back. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
been way too long.
Yeah. It's been way too long. Yeah. Tyler and I got just busy. Life came in the way, and professional things came in the way. So all of a sudden, we said, oh, okay, we'll take a couple of weeks off, and the couple of weeks turned into a year, basically. So almost a year, or not. Yeah. Uh, but here we're back. So it was still not intentional for the hiatus, but it definitely was. We did take it knowing fully well that we were going to return back. So um, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there was a lot going on the year that we were off. You had a lot going on.
yeah,
I had a big project that I
yeah,
finally finished up the other day.
yeah,
Um, you had a bunch of show stuff going on too, right?
yeah, yeah,
Whew.
yeah, yeah. A lot of crazy stuff. So it was yeah. What's funny is that like we're still extremely busy, but it's not that bad now. It's not like crushing. Uh, it's good. It's good, and I think that LiveBrush is going to be something that it's a piece of time that we're gonna definitely hold sacred, um, so that we can hang out with each other and all all the viewers, man.
Yeah, all you.
So yeah, I'm super
What
excited.
are we calling the viewers? What are they?
Uh,
Live brushers? We can do something better than that.
no, I thought it was like the Pharaoh flock or something like
Yeah, yeah. F in the chat, everyone. If it's feral flock. And we
that.
also have with us again, like in season 1 and season 2, the
Yeah.
magnificent Kate Welch.
Yeah, I'm kind of here. You guys
She's
are
kind of
running the
here.
show now. I was like, I could come in. I'm happy to do it. And you guys said no. I believe Ray, your exact words were, your graphics card is not powerful enough, which doesn't
Yeah.
make sense to me. Um, but it's a 2080.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that's pretty reasonable given supply chain issues.
Those are
Yeah.
great for holding up like bookshelves that are, have seen better days for sure. So yeah, I applaud you for that, Kate.
Mm.
Yeah,
But
they
I
can run
think
the
I
original
remember,
Metroid too pretty well.
yeah, yeah. I think, well, Kate, I mean, truth be told, Pharaoh Flock, F in the chat if you think that's incredible. Um, this is what you can expect in season 3, just right off the
Yeah.
bat.
Yeah.
Okay. Kate went Brando on us and wanted like a hundred million Shiba coin per hour per minute.
Yeah.
No, and we're just gonna afford. We're just gonna afford the show would collapse financially.
Yeah. I mean, that's like $15 a week, and it's We just can't do
if
that.
you checked, if you check tomorrow, it might be 15 cents a week. But that being said,
Could be. It's hard. You know?
I was gonna, you know what I was whenever you guys were, I was collecting all the nice things that people are saying in the chat about you, but I'm not gonna read them to you now because this is some hateful anti-Kate rhetoric that I will not stand for. I am standing for it right now. I am standing at my desk. Are we all standing now? Are we a standing show?
I am sitting down because my feet, ankles, knees, and hips hurt. Because I'm old.
Oh, because you're so old. Yeah.
I'm so old.
oh,
So
you're very anti-stander right now.
Yeah,
you're
I'm
anti-stander.
not into the standing.
Let's focus on that. F in the chat if you think Tyler's already insulting people.
Hey, you guys get started on your stuff. I'll read some compliments.
Okay.
So we're supposed to do art here. Okay, so what's going on? I don't know what the line was between season 1 and season 2. So this is season 3 somehow. I think we'll call the line just time. And this season, I think Ray and I have decided to just kind of work on our own little personal things. I'll probably bring back some portraits like we did in season 1.
Yeah, totally.
But today I am in ZBrush and I'm going to be painting with 3-dimensional pixels. And I haven't used ZBrush in a while, so I'm sure there'll be people in the chat that are like, what the hell? Why is he not doing this or blah, blah, blah. That's definitely going to happen. So get ready for this because I almost have no idea what I'm doing in ZBrush, and it'll be fun for you guys to see that. Ray, what are you working on?
Season 3, baby.
Season 3.
Season 3. We're going 3D. This is like the season before we go.
Yeah, it's like Jaws 3D. Oh man.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
What a wasted opportunity.
I just laid that up for you, and you just fell off the side of
the ad campaign, like advertising this. What we could have done. Holy smokes!
We got to talk about that. We have to talk about that movie in a second. So I am working on a small painting that could be a study. It's an underpainting for it. I'm going to be painting in acrylics, monochromatically. So just I have some basically white and like a mixture of a chromatic black, which is a mixture of burnt umber, ultramarine blue, and maybe a little bit of yellow ochre. And I'm going to be establishing just an underpainting, working on all my values on this thing. And this is a study for me, but I'm going to try and finish it as a full painting to see if I want to do something a little bit larger. So yeah, that's what I'm working on.
It's going to be awesome, dude. I'm just going to mess around and do I want to do like a monster. So I'm just going to start kind of building something and we'll go along the way. And, in the weeks between now and our next episode, which hopefully won't be weeks, hopefully be next week.
Months, maybe.
It could be years. I will refresh my memory as to the things that I can actually do in this program. And we'll keep going. It'll look better. It'll look smarter.
God.
Y'all want to hear some compliments real quick while you get started?
Yeah, that's nice. Already
nice.
Sure.
Hey.
So it's from you, Kate, to us?
No, absolutely not. This one is from Nick DeLuca.
Hey,
Nick
nice.
says,
Oh, that was great.
Frodo says,
Frodo, there's no one there.
He's been doing this all day.
Oh my God.
Did I miss the stream?
He's hallucinating delivery men at this point. Come on. Nick DeLuca says, welcome back. Congratulations on the book, Tyler. Can't wait for my copy to come in, and congrats on Ray with his smart school classes and his gallery shows. I put the stank on it. That didn't come from Nick DeLuca 96. That one came from me.
I like the attitude. Yeah, the inflection definitely changes the.
It's a very sassy Nick DeLuca 96. But I like that, and I think we should read Nick's all of Nick's messages with that that tone.
I'll put a little stank on everybody's compliments.
Yeah.
From Lord Adornable, we have, yay, they're back. I just wanted to tell you guys that I fell in love with the show from watching the VODs on YouTube. I'm super excited to get to experience these streams live.
Excellent.
Super awesome.
As you can tell from the VODs, we don't do any editing. We just
even though we should.
We just go with it.
And yeah.
A
Oh,
lot-
by the way, thank you, Nick. We didn't thank Nick for the kind comments.
Yes,
well, I
you,
did, but you didn't, Tyler.
No, thank you, Nick, and thank you to all the other fine comments.
Thank
as
you,
well, just ahead of time.
Lord Adornable. Thank you so much. We also have a lot. I just want to point out a lot of observations which are extremely accurate in the chat. That Ray still does not know what F the chat means, and I think at this point, he's too afraid to ask.
No, I did. We figured it out in the lost season, and I was right.
That's true. And we used it appropriately in every episode of that season. I have to say.
once per episode. Here's a question from King Ghoul. Were you guys influenced by Phil Hale?
Oh, we love Phil Hale. I do. I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to speak for Ray, but I love Phil Hale's work.
Dude, I think I introduced Phil Hale's work to you.
You know, to be perfectly honest here, everyone in the chat, most of the artists that I know, Ray introduced me to. Pretty much all of them.
I mean, like in a book form, not like I walked up here's my buddy Phil. God,
you could have gone with it. Go with it.
That's right. Yeah, we met Phil. Doing art things.
Actually, you introduced me to like people like Sal Abinetti and a bunch of comic guys at Comic-Con.
Yeah,
at
Comic-Con.
Don't sell yourself short. Don't sell yourself short.
I'm not. I'm selling myself even larger.
Sell yourself large.
Saying that. Phil knows me, not the other way around. No. Yeah, Phil Hale is, man, he's so good. He's so good. That whole like group of artists that were influenced by by Rick Barry, like Justin Mortimer, Jason Son, Alexander, and the people who work with John Foster.
Yeah.
That they're just like, they're so good. Have we seen Phil Hale's work in real life?
I saw one of his paintings at the National Portrait Gallery in London.
Oh, the Tony Blair one?
I don't think it was that one. It was a smaller one that he had done of somebody else.
Oh my God, it must have been the world's greatest painting ever.
It was nice. It was very good. I mean, it's Phil Hale. Jeez.
Yeah.
I think they have one of his paintings in the Society, don't they? Like one of his like robot getting punched.
See,
paintings.
that's what I thought. I could have sworn I saw somewhere, maybe near Comic-Con. It's the one with like, it's a guy in the air and he's yelling, right? White shirt.
Yeah,
with
and
he's got
like a hammer or something in his hand.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm not crazy. So we did see that together then. I don't know where, but it must have been the Society
somewhere. We've been a lot of
we're
places.
talking about Society of Illustrators.
Ray and
I mean, we've been places.
We've been a lot of joints.
And we know Phil. No, we do not know Phil.
No, we don't know. But he's great. We love his work.
Yeah, he's great. Yeah.
LiveBrush totally is for Phil Hale. Let it be known. I don't know
this
what
one's
I'm
for
going
you,
to do
Phil.
here. Can you see what I'm doing over here, Ray? I don't know what I'm going to do with this. I'm going to probably do like some kind of orc head or something. I do a lot of fantasy work. Might as well.
Hey, here's a question.
Yeah.
From Raphael Lucchini, who's a first-time poster in the chat. Hi, Raphael. Hey, Tyler. I backed the book on Kickstarter. Congrats, man. A question. Did you guys put some art process in it?
In this one, we did not. But we had enough art that we're split up into 2 books. So our plan is for book 2 to put a lot more process stuff. But in the deluxe edition of the book, there is some sketch stuff in the back, which is a nice little bonus for the deluxe edition. But yeah, no, we didn't do any process stuff. Not this time around.
Tyler, can we talk about the book for those of you that don't know what's going on?
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about the book.
Let's talk about it. So Tyler, well, I mean, this is your book, so I figured that you should talk about it rather.
No, I mean, I guess, So folks out there that don't know, I've been working over the past year with John Flesk at Flesk Publications. We can put a link in the chat if anyone is able to do that. I guess I could do that. So
you work. I'll do it.
okay, thank you. Excuse the ums. My voice is a little strange lately. I'm not sure what's going on. So we created a book, and we funded the printing of it on Kickstarter, and it had a wonderful show of people coming out to support the book. And we met our goal really quick, and then I think we ultimately got up to 85,000 or something, which completely covered all of our production costs. We had to work with a printer in Belgium who was a first-time person for John to work with, because he's having some issues with his printer in Hong Kong. But this printer was great. They did a really beautiful job. I actually have a copy of one of the books they sent to us. So if you're interested in checking out that art book, which is sort of a career retrospective from the past 12 years of my art career, check it out at there's a link, I think, to the Kickstarter on my website. But if you go to Flesk Publications, which is Kate has so graciously put into the chat, you can see there, that'll bring you to the book. If you feel like pre-ordering, we should be getting shipments of the book in the next few days.
Dude, I can't wait. I can't wait for my copy.
Oh man, did you get a signed one?
I don't know. Was there an option for one?
Yeah, there was an option. There's a few tiers. So there was like the option for just for the Kickstarter, we offered signed copies and then like 100 copies that have sketches in them that I did.
Oh wow!
Jeez.
When it went live on Kickstarter, I just clicked it as fast as possible. So I don't know what I could have probably backed some other project for all I know.
Well, hopefully it was that G.I. Joe book that I sent you.
Yeah, that's a great one. Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm excited. And dude, that's so awesome. A book.
Thank you.
A book, man. And it's, you know what? It's not even like one of those like, yeah, I'm published. And it's just like, Ham and Cheese Publications. That's your own like thing that you made up one day, when we were playing Overwatch or something like that. Like, no, it's Flesk Publications. It's Flesk, like
John is amazing. So if anyone ever out there gets the opportunity to work with John Flesk, he's fantastic. Awesome. They did such great work putting it all together.
I have so many of his books.
Yeah, I mean, I think I have like 5 or 6 of them. And I'm trying to remember which ones I have on my bookshelf. My little tiny head in the chat, I'm looking over my bookshelf. It's not very helpful, but
I think so. The one I have, I know is I have the Steve Rude one is excellent. I have a bunch of the Mark Schultz books because just like that was the first time I ran across. Actually, you and I ran across Mark Schultz's work. We met him. That's somebody we met.
You introduced me to him at a Comic-Con.
I did.
Yeah, you did.
Well, I don't think you'd met Mark for years.
But you walked up and was like, "Hey," and I was, look, back in these days.
Hello there, like the like
I would hide it. I wouldn't even come up, but Ray would run right the hell up at a Comic-Con.
Hey, hey, y'all, we're getting raided big time by Sula Moon.
Whoa.
Sula Moon, thank you.
Whoa, thank you so much.
Hey, welcome everybody. Wow. Welcome everybody.
Raid of Sula. Whoa,
Sula Moon says Tyler is my great master of values.
Oh, thank you so much.
Wow. Hopefully not moral values.
No,
aesthetic values.
No. We wouldn't put any of that in here in LiveBrush. That wouldn't be here. Stay away from that.
Thank you so much. Wow, that's so awesome.
So, what were we talking about? The book.
We were talking about your book.
No, that's right.
And then Mark Schultz.
Yeah, check out the other books.
More importantly, your book. So John, Flesk has like Gary Gianni, Mark Schultz, a bunch of Al Williamson books that I love.
Those are so good. And Alan Williams.
Oh my God, his
not
book
to mix up Al Williamson and Alan Williams, but he does book work for both of those folks, and it's all amazing stuff. I think I have his Joseph Clement Cole books, which are really great.
Oh, wow. You know what? I don't know why I never picked one of those up. I got to do that.
He doesn't have a
All right.
lot of them. I think I snagged one from him when I was in there in person for Spectrum stuff, but
So
yeah,
you
man,
stole
if
it,
you
basically.
yeah, I stole it. If you get a chance to grab those books and you want to see like, well, Clement Cole's like right before Bernie Wrightson, right? I mean,
Oh, way before. Yeah.
way before.
Way before.
I mean, but like a predecessor, I guess, to him in that respect.
Totally.
In that Bernie Wrightson kind of based his style off of that kind of work.
Yeah.
So if
Yeah,
you like
very-
Bernie Wrightson's work, you'll love Joseph Clement Cole.
It's like painting with pen and ink, basically.
Yeah, and it looks like woodcuts.
Yeah.
Like the way they use the negative space making. I don't know, it's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. They're like little tiles of I don't know. It's like tiling, basically, for a lot of that stuff.
Ding dong.
Ding dong.
I don't have the stream board anymore because I'm not hosting the show, but I'll just make the noises with my mouth. We have a question from the chat. FKLEN, Clen, asks, are you modeling from your mind or using
Yes.
reference?
No, I don't have
Are
any
you mind
reference.
modeling?
I'm mind modeling. I'm just messing around because I want to get back into ZBrush. This is something actually Kate and I have talked about a lot. I want to do more sculpting stuff. So I thought it'd be fun on LiveBrush to kind of mess around in here a little bit, maybe for a few of the shows. And maybe I can get to something a little more finished because I'm just not super experienced with 3D sculpting. So yeah, I'm just kind of messing around. I know how to sort of add sub tools and stuff in ZBrush, but my knowledge is pretty slim. So everybody in the chat and everyone watching will get the unique opportunity to see me make a bunch of garbage in ZBrush, which I think is important to the artist journey, to understand that you're going to make crap and go ahead and make it.
Ding dong. First from me, I love that you're going to make crap. I also love that you would describe anything you make as crap because it makes the people out here like me who are actually making crap feel pretty bad about it. But a real question from
Nice.
King_Ghoul. King Ghoul asks, what figure drawing books would you recommend?
Oh, the Loomis books, for
Okay.
sure.
Yeah. So let's sit down. Let's grab something to eat. Grab a pen and paper.
This is quite a question.
I've got. Yeah. So yes, figure drawing for all it's worth, successful drawing, and even creative illustration, I think are my top 3 favorite Andrew Loomis books. Loomis.
Yeah. And even
you could get them for free online if you wanted to.
Yeah, that's true. When we were in art school, we only had the free ones. I have all the physical copies now that
yeah.
Who put them out? Creative Illustration?
Titan Books.
Titan
Books.
Did. That's right.
Basically made how do you pronounce that word? It's like facilme.
Oh,
Facil.
Facilement means
Facilement.
easily or easy.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Facilement.
So like facile. Okay.
Thank you.
Those
Kate.
are really good. I honestly, and it's still a great book. I think I grew up with it. How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way, which was
oh my god, yeah,
phenomenal book. So I would snag that if you can. And there's another one that I think I have on my shelves. One of our teachers, Ray, or at our school, I never took classes from him. Henry.
Oh, Henry Yan. Yeah.
Henry Yan's
Yang.
figure drawing book is
Yeah.
phenomenal. But the Loomis books are the best place to start, I'd say.
I thought you were gonna say like it is a book. I don't know if you took classes with him, a book on head drawing by I don't know, some guy by the name of Bill Mon.
We need that board back, don't we? I guess I got to put.
No, we don't. No, we don't. You have me. Ding dong. A question from Eric Davisheim, whose name I don't think I've ever pronounced correctly. Question for Tyler. How did it feel going back through your art when you were putting the book together? Were you surprised by anything taking a holistic look at your work?
Oh man,
that's a great question.
That's a great question because it was actually a kind of a rough ride going through. There was I think we had, it was rough in a couple ways. I found a bunch of old art that was like made me cringe because it was something like stuff I had done right out of art school for clients, and I just didn't know what I was doing. And I think I included some of those cringeworthy pieces in there because I thought it was important for people to see, you know, where I'd come from and pieces that I think looked amateurish. Although I didn't give subtitles to those you know, those images saying like these look like crap. I just wanted to put them in there. And then I also, there was this like terrible feeling of, we had like 360 or 370 pieces of art, and
Wow.
we're only going to make like 160 page book. So we split it into two. So there'll be a second book, but it was the act of kind of culling it, like pulling out the pieces that, like, I didn't want book one to be really robust and have all the hits that you know, all the big pieces throughout my career. So I moved some of them to the second book so that the second book could be as robust as the first book. So that was difficult, pulling out pieces that I wanted to have in the book, that I really wanted to show, but to save them for the next book. But going through all of that was actually quite a task, finding like when I did the piece, who I did it for. We were even contemplating putting the art directors on every single piece, but that became like a monumental task, and I couldn't remember, like a good majority of them, I couldn't remember what year I did them, much less like exactly which client and which. I think we ended up getting most of the clients correct, but I couldn't remember all the art directors, and I apologize to all the art directors out there that I've worked with over the years when I couldn't match your names up to the pieces that I was going through. But yeah, it was a task, and I had a great time doing it, but it was a lot of stuff to go through. Good question, though. Thank you.
Yeah, we should talk
That's
more
it.
about that book because we had considered having a comeback stream, like our return to celebrate the launch or the Kickstarter. So you never got your chance to really like talk about your book. I mean, I know you did, like in their interviews and things like that John did, and but yeah, I mean, what else? So, geez, how do you feel about like a monograph, for goodness sake? I mean, like, I remember when you were putting it all together and just tons of images. I remember that when you were starting to collect stuff.
I mean, it's
But
just a crazy feeling, really. I mean, it's something I've always wanted, and this, I think, came up in a bunch of interviews I did with John. Was I kept saying that over and over again, like I dreamed of doing this. So it's still pretty surreal, man. I'm excited for it to come out and for people to hold it. You know, I think that was the most exciting thing for me when I got the contributor copy from the printer that I have sitting over here. Was like just going through it and looking at how all the colors turned out, and they're all perfect. Like it was all exactly what I was hoping. And I think that was my
awesome.
biggest anxiety while we were going through proofing, was I didn't get to really see the physical stuff. I had to trust John when he was saying like, yeah, this looks really good, man. Don't worry. This looks great.
Yeah,
He was even
you
saying
and I
that,
are.
oh, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say. I mean, that's something like I remember ever since grad school, that type of stuff, and you know that we would obsess over like print reproduction and just cringe when we see our work in print, and it would just be all messed up. Or we
Yeah.
were printing our own portfolio stuff. We
And like freaking
spent
out
all this
about like
money.
it looking like crap.
Yeah, yeah. So I
Like, I don't
totally
know how to
understand
fix
that.
this.
Yeah. Oh God. So I didn't mean to derail you.
No. I mean, that was just the whole process, and it was all new to me. You know, John had done it a ton of times, so I was just on the sidelines really for the printing side, asking him questions about how it all worked, and you know, what the timelines are going to look like, what the printer was going to send, those kinds of things. But ultimately, in the end, it turned out really great. The Belgian printer we used was phenomenal. They did a perfect job with the book.
Yeah, and so you're. Go ahead. Go ahead, Kate.
I was going to ding dong. Rex Fair, do you have an excellent question? We'll get back to this one, but because we're on the topic of the book, I'm going to ask Nick DeLuca's question, which was, Tyler, when going through your old work, was there anything that you saw style-wise that you did that you don't do, but is something that you feel you should start doing again?
Yeah, actually, there was a whole period in my career where I used Corel Painter quite a bit because it had some really good like simulating oil paints.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember I used to I would rough everything in Photoshop and then I would transfer it over.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and then I would push paint around, and I just kind of stopped doing that. You can kind of do it even with the mixer brush and with the nudge tool or whatever that's in Photoshop. You can kind of get the effect, but Corel Painter was really good at it. But the rest of the stuff I didn't think Corel Painter was that great at. So I want to do more of that like sort of really oil painty look, which I'm doing in actual oil paint, which is fine. But I'm glad that I'm now messing around with Procreate on the iPad because you can do a lot of that wet and wet. And it's really good at simulating it, which Photoshop is still not something that's still not very good at doing it.
No, yeah. It was hacked to be a painting program. I mean, it was never, you could totally tell even after all these years. But that was actually what I was going to bring up was the cover for the book was your first time doing like a full-on illustration in Procreate, right?
Yeah, we just released a time lapse of that for the Kickstarter folks. But yeah, I'd never done a full painting in that. So I was like learning a lot while doing the cover. And I don't even know if I got it to the fidelity that I wanted to, just because I was so unfamiliar with the tool. But it made me want to do a lot more stuff in there. And because it's so like travel friendly and we have some trips planned, I might just try and work off of that for a bit. We'll see what happens.
We got rated by by David Peterson.
Oh wow, David Peterson, thank you.
The guard prevail, man. Jeez, love all the love.
Love David Peterson. He's great.
It's awesome. That is awesome. That's so awesome.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining.
Thank you for joining, everyone.
Ding dong. I'm going to hop back to Rex Verity's excellent question. Was there a piece of advice that you got from an art director or peer that changed the way you approach your work? And I've heard quite enough out of Tyler Jacobson. So, Ray, would you mind answering this question first?
Yeah, for sure.
Whatever. Like Ray's going to do it.
There was I got a really great portfolio review from Adam, this fantasy sort of convention called IlluxCon or LuxCon, depending on the pronunciation of who you talk to. It still goes on. It's in is this still in Pennsylvania, Tyler?
Yeah, I think they moved it to Allentown or like somewhere near Allentown.
Right on.
Yeah, I can't remember, but I think that was actually the first time we met Denman, right? That IlluxCon.
Yes.
I mean, I'd met him, I think, before at my friend's wedding in Pennsylvania, but that was when we got a lot of FaceTime with.
I wasn't there, and it really was. That wasn't memorable.
I met him first.
I wasn't there. I wasn't there. Okay.
Anyways, go on.
All right. To hashtag Team Ray. And so there were portfolio reviews that you could sign up for if you went to went to IlluxCon. And so I got in late in terms of like the portfolio reviews and was able to. There was like 2 slots, and one of them was an art director by the name of Rob Ruppel. And Rob is like I didn't know of his work until later on. Like, he's a legend in concept art and like Hollywood and animation and video games. He was at the time the art director for all of the Uncharted games, and now he's since, I think he's doing freelance stuff. But he worked in like Love, Death and Robots. And,
yeah, that's right.
Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and like a trillion other things. It's unbelievable. ROBH RUPPEL. Rob Ruppel.
Phenomenal artist.
Yeah. And I gave him he had a portfolio review, and it was like incredible. He he had like so much constructive feedback. And the biggest thing, you know, I always joked that like he ripped my portfolio apart. He was really constructive about stuff, and he knew it immediately. Like he was really clear and direct about what his feedback was, and I really appreciate that. And he really um, talked to me about the importance of like understanding and studying form, you know, and understanding that like not to just like copy something from life or just from a photo reference or whatever under and actually, you know, be able to visually communicate how that form changes and really think about how it sits in three-dimensional space. um, and his advice was pertaining specifically to the human figure, but it applied to everything. And you know, the next year, you know, I just redid my whole portfolio because of it. You know, you never like to hear that, oh, you know, you're not where you thought you were. But I remember redoing my entire portfolio, and like the year after, I won my first major award, you know, in illustration. Uh, and I largely thank, uh, you know, Rob's feedback from that. Uh, so that was like that always is in my mind always. So that's a great question.
And that's like a hard thing to deal with, right? When you're an art student and you're getting like harsh talk at the work that you know, you're getting out of art school like you think you're ready to roll, right?
Right.
And then, you know, someone's like, "Well, this could be better." You're sort of like, "Oh, what was all this building up for?" But I mean, that's
Yeah.
what you should kind of view. Everyone should kind of view their work always like that. Like it should always be ready to change or improve. Like you should always be looking to improve things, no matter when. Like not just out of school or not. Like you should always be looking to
Yeah.
get to a place that you want your work to get to, and maybe even go far beyond that.
And and his attitude was very like I really appreciated it. It was just very matter of fact, and that really taught me like as a professional, you always have to take the emotion out of. You put so much in your artwork, and it's really hard to do that. But like you take when it comes to improving, you just got to be objective about it and say like, okay, I'm not great in this area. All right, well, I'm gonna go work on it,
Yeah,
and don't. It's nothing. It doesn't have to be anything beyond that. And that's a really kind of when you have that mindset, like, and that's a really, you know, what Rob's sort of feedback, got me. You know, it really changed my just. It really helped sort of focus my efforts and just change my outlook on things, and it was great. He said one time also like when he's working with like his favorite people that he likes to work with are people who always want to get better. And he
yeah,
says like the best usually are just, you know, have this the best artists he's ever met or work with are just constantly driving to improve themselves, and just having that attitude. That's like it doesn't matter what style it is. It's like it's they all have that same type of attitude, and it's, you know, I took that to heart. So it's pretty awesome.
that's great, man. Great answer to a great question.
Dong, hey, I got a great question for you too, which I will ask you in a moment when I get my window back. Where is it? Oh, Stabby Road Games. Hi, Stabby. Ask, speaking of Corel and nice paint mixing, has anyone tried Rebel? Have you guys seen this? Rebel 5? I'm looking at it now.
I've heard of it. I've not messed around with it yet, though. Is it pretty good?
Yeah, I haven't, but I've heard of it.
Ooh, it looks cool.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out. I haven't had a chance.
Great. Question. Ding dong question. Lord Adornable asks, now that we're talking about portfolio reviews, have any of you thought about doing a portfolio review stream?
Oh,
Wow.
that could be something interesting. Like we could do a special stream down the road where we
Yeah.
kind of go over portfolios. As long as people are willing to put their work out there and have it critiqued, that's always hard. But if people are willing, that'd be cool.
Yeah. We'll have to talk about that. Um, yeah, I think it's a great idea, especially with the community. I'm sure there's just a ton of artists, you know. So it's pretty awesome. Oh,
Yeah,
and
that'd be
Stabby
awesome.
Rogue Game says, I forgot about Artrage. Yes. Blast from the Past. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
I've used
Artrage
that.
is awesome.
I remember that one.
Yeah, I think that was like one of the first pieces of software that wasn't a game that I bought on Steam. For some reason, that's a memory that I have of Outrage. And also,
Wow.
it made my computer really work to render all that realistic oil paint. But I haven't tried it in a really long time. I wonder if they've addressed those performance issues.
It was on Steam? That's
It was
incredible.
on Steam. Yes.
Wow.
Yes. It was weird.
That's so awesome.
I've got a few. The other speaking of 3D, I guess, was or Steam. I have been messing around just a little bit in some of those 3D programs. Was it like Gravity Brush?
Yeah.
Just a
Oh,
little
you're
bit.
talking about it in virtual reality.
Yeah, yeah, in our Quest VR headsets. There's some cool stuff you can do in there, but man, I wish it had the fidelity that you have in ZBrush, but not yet. Getting there.
Yeah, well, I mean, 3D is getting incredible. I mean, you and I have talk about it all the time and stuff, and I mean, now you could do. I mean, ZBrush has always been kind of the mainstay, but now you have, desktop programs like Blender, and then also like stuff on the iPad like Nomad.
Yeah, you've been
Which
doing a lot
I
of
like
Blender
absolutely
stuff,
love.
right?
Yeah, like, yeah, here and there. Like, I know enough to to sort of kind of get results, but I don't know fundamentals yet. And I did buy a course on flip normals, because there's some it's a marketplace, but it's taught by the course that I did. It was taught by I forgot his name, but he's an artist that worked on like Pacific Rim and a bunch of like Hollywood stuff, and I mean, from the free art videos I've seen, it's just a really great stuff. And I got to go through just like, where are menus, like what's the render tab, what do all those buttons do,
Yeah, I mean, I have the same issue with ZBrush. Like the menus are like, I don't know, they're so overwhelming for me. There's so many weird menus, and the things you would think would be in some area are not. So that's like the whole learning curve, learning the tool.
Yeah, but I think it's such a great resource set for artists. I'm like all about that idea. Of using 3D to build references, and I mean, you could just build anything, which is pretty incredible when you think about it.
Yeah, now you can print it. So
yeah, and you can print it. Yeah. I saw people printing, like doing stuff on their iPad, Nomad, and I know there's also Forger, but doing sculpting stuff in Nomad, just printing on their 3D printer. It's just like, what?
I've been having fun in Nomad, man. That's great stuff.
Yeah, it's powerful too, man.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a YouTuber by the name of Glenn Southern. It's like Southern GFX. If you're ever interested in like learning about Nomad, I absolutely recommend his videos. A bunch of free stuff. He's got paid courses too. That's the Nomad. I took his Nomad intro course, and within like three chapters, I was up and running, which is pretty crazy.
Oh wow.
So I haven't even gone through the whole course yet, and it became pretty easy to navigate.
Hey, Ray.
Yeah.
Can you turn your volume up a little bit, bud?
Oh, I can. Yeah, sure, no problem.
Okay, great. Ding dong. Raphael Lucchini asks, "Hey Tyler, I think these questions are probably relevant to Ray as well. When painting in oils, do you pre-mix paints before starting to paint? What's your more standard palette colors, and do you paint standing up?"
All right. Good line
Well,
of questions.
we could work back front to back. I think standing up is, great way to paint.
Yeah,
As a matter of fact, I'm painting standing up as right now. And Kate, I think if I'm not mistaken, you're standing up right now.
I'm standing up. I'm not painting, but if I were, I'd be wildly comfortable.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Great. So Tyler, thoughts?
Good for you guys. No, it's really wonderful. Yeah, I paint standing up actually quite a bit. If I really want to get into like super tight details, I tend to sit down. Okay, what was the other ones?
Yeah,
With painting and oils, do you pre-mix your paints before you start? And what are your
Yes.
more standard palette colors?
I used to not pre-mix my paints before I start. In fact, on some of the LiveBrush streams that we've done in season 1, I was just had a big old mess of mud, which I like to paint like that, so that you kind of, painting from mud, you can kind of push temperatures and everything kind of gets to stay in harmony. But for the illustration stuff I've been doing for Magic, I really have to pre-mix everything because I'll tend to be working on maybe one area for that day, and so I need to kind of mix up all the colors I want to be using in there and like test them to make sure they match what I did the day before. And that ends up being, if I just spend 20-30 minutes mixing all that stuff up beforehand, it goes super quick because I can just paint the stuff in the areas. Like if I'm doing some magical effect and I have all the chroma transitions from like really high saturation to white for like a glowing object. If I have all that mixed up, I can just kind of push it all down there and then mix it around together. So it's just like a big time saver for me. What about you, Ray? Do you pre-mix as well?
Yeah, so I pre-mix a lot of paints. In my palette, I usually start when I'm working in. I find for myself when I'm working in value, like I am right now, just with this black like monochromatic. I like pre-mixing all of my values just so that I can just work on shapes and mixing subtle values. It's just a faster way of doing it because you got to think that like you're always working from when you're starting with just a base thing straight from the tube. You're working from extremes, like in this case, white and black, and those are easy to obtain. But the stuff in the middle is the hard stuff, and so um, you're going to spend the time mixing. But I think it's when you're mixing with your brush on the go, it's just more stuff that you have to worry about. And I find for me, it's much easier if I just pre-mix a couple of values and then go from there. They're not going to all like end up on my painting, but I could achieve or arrive at more subtle values when I much quicker. But Tyler and I were taught to just paint from what's called an open palette, which means that you're not pre-mixing anything, and you're just going straight into it. And there's a lot of you get a lot of happy accidents. It also forces you to be that type of training forces you to be really careful and make decisions quickly. So it helps you simplify and so. But you stick with that palette for a long time. I mean, like a standard palette that we would use. If you're ever interested in just getting into like color and just controlling it. I actually teach a course on this at Smart School. But we is the Zorn palette. If you look up the Zorn palette, which is just a limited color palette, Anders Zorn, Zorn, you can. It's a palette that's, it's basically titanium white, yellow ochre. Zorn actually used vermilion. I forgot what type of like pure vermilion or something like that, but which is its own color, but it's expensive. So people substituted for cad red light. He didn't use titanium white either. He used flake white, but it's all this is. I know it's different, but it's you get really similar results. So, and it's so titanium white, yellow ochre, cadmium red light. You could do the hue version, that's fine, and then ivory black, and from there, you can mix a bunch of colors, and they're pretty subdued in terms of their intensity, but it allows you to still think, use color while still thinking in value. And then from there, we just went from like a standard chromatic palette, right, Tyler? I mean, like cad yellow light, cad red light, alizarin crimson, ultramarine blue.
That was from Bill, right? Where he wanted us to. We used that palette for so long because we had warm and cool versions of everything. And that way we could make neutral versions. You could cross the color wheel to get to like really good grays. You control, like, I mean, I guess to say anything about it, like that palette that Bill had us using was, I guess kept us really aware of what our palette was, like how we could quickly get to colors that we wanted to.
Right.
It's funny, I don't even use those palettes anymore. I use a completely different one, but it's not too different.
Yeah, and it was and then it was that was the whole thing, right? It was meant to like you could use it as long as you want, but he kind of taught us it so that we could just go and use our own colors. But when we did do that, we would understand what we would understand where the new colors were, where they sat, and in context to the rest of the color wheel.
Yeah,
so
that's it. It was like it was helping us just by having a palette. We were understanding color theory better. I think like it helped us understand color theory, which is a beast of a thing to even figure out. So
it's easy.
Well, Ray teaches a course on it, so it's easy now. It's still hard for me.
No, it's yeah, you got to spend some time with it. Yeah, it's a beast. But the palette that we had started off with was, you can get like a version of it. I mean, one of my other teachers, Craig Nelson, great teacher, great artist, used a variation of it. So it's basically cad yellow light, cad yellow light, cad red light, alizarin crimson, ultramarine blue, and then he had 2 earth colors. I'm sorry, ultramarine blue, and then he would sometimes do cerulean blue. And then he would have 2 earth colors, yellow ochre and burnt umber. But that's it's a really standard regular type of palette. So
I didn't even have that palette, dude, because I didn't have that class of his. I think my first legit palette was Tamutsu's. It was like that super limited one. It was like Terra Rosa, French ultramarine, yellow ochre, and then white and black. No, just white, because we made he threw burnt umber in there so we could make black from French ultramarine.
Yeah. Right. It was basically, so that was Craig's version of the Zorn palette, which was he did Terra Rosa instead of yellow ochre. And then he would have you mix a chromatic black, which is basically ultramarine blue and burnt umber. If you mix those two together, you'll get something pretty darn close to black.
Yeah, I love doing that chromatic black with French ultramarine and burnt umber, because burnt umber is essentially orange, so you can roll it. If you want a really warm black, you can roll it to warm. If you want a really cool black, you can roll it to cold with the blue. So it's really flexible. Like the one I use now is, you might still use a little of this one too. I use the, it's like French ultramarine, burnt umber. It's like I use alizarin crimson, but you can use that red.
Pyro red.
Yeah, pyro red. And then basically like just straight cad. I think I use cad light. But anyways, that gives me, along with titanium white, it gives me all the areas of the color wheel, and I can push everything around. So, if I need something warmer but lighter, I can use the yellow. Actually, cad lemon is what I was using. But if I needed something warmer and cooler, I'd use the titanium white, because it's kind of sits in purple. So that's what I use now.
Well, no wonder you're having so many color problems. That's just a horrible palette. No.
I have to keep asking Ray for help, because I can't mix any colors. But when I want to get really, really high saturation stuff for magic, I use basically like a CMYK palette. So it's quinacridone magenta, cobalt teal, and lemon yellow.
I love cobalt teal. You got me on cobalt teal.
Cobalt teal is amazing. So if you mix those three kind of act just like CMYK. So you can get these really beautiful higher value colors. Like they're great for clouds. If you bring them together into a gray, you can get these really beautiful transitions. So I kind of have those two side by side.
Yeah. Well, I got see a question in the chat here. Kind of cut off on my end, but it says, Ray, did you ever try golden open acrylics? Those acrylics that take a day. It's cut off, but because I have
Day
my
to dry out.
day to dry out. Yes. So I have. They're not bad. I like the acrylics quite a bit. The ones that I use are my acrylics of choice are Winsor Newton professional acrylics because the thing I can't stand about acrylics, I love acrylics, but I can't stand the fact that they have shifting, like their value shift and the color shifts when it goes from wet to dry. It drives me crazy. And if you work with it for years and that's all you know, I'm sure that's not an issue. But for me, when coming from oils, I'm so used to like what I put down, it's just going to stay, and it doesn't, because oils takes forever. It takes a lot longer to dry. But I digress. So the Winsor Newton ones don't. And the open acrylics, drying time really doesn't bother me because I actually have, I put my acrylics out on a wet, take a piece of like a paper towel and wet the edge, you fold it into a strip. Let me actually, I have a paper towel right here. It is folded into a
paper
strip.
Towel?
Viva paper towel. No. Like that. You dunk that in water. You then you wring out any excess water. You put that on your palette, and then you put your paints on the wet paper towel. It'll stay wet for, days, hours. If you keep it sealed in an airtight container, weeks, months. So
yeah, it'll go
I can
moldy
mix
before the paint dries.
Yeah, it will. It will. So that's why I'm able to mix a bunch of stuff up. Like I mixed this palette maybe 2 weeks ago that I was using on another painting, and I just decided to just use it for this one, and it was not a problem. Sometimes I occasionally miss the top on with just a pump spray bottle. It's like this, nothing crazy, and I'm off to the races.
Yeah, and this works like with both, especially with the wet palette and acrylic. You can have big piles of paint mixed up. You can even put them in jars. Like I used to do that with miniature paints. I'd put them into jars and save those colors for later. But for oils, you can do the same thing, and you can just leave the pile there, and it'll dry on the outside, but the inside will still be wet. So I do that with oils too, where it's like at the end of the day or the end of the week, and I'll mix up a big pile of a bunch of areas I want to work on next week. And it'll have that crust formed over the top of it by next week, but I just break it open with a palette knife and scoop it all out, the stuff I want to work with. And then I can, once I have that pile, I can color match it pretty quick.
And it's all preference, when it comes to that type of stuff too. So don't think that all acrylics are bad, because I don't want to give anybody the impression you're gonna know what works for you,
And I use those too, man. Like on that last, I did a painting a while back that I did entirely in acrylic, and I used the acrylics that Ray had recommended, and they definitely hold up like that value shift a lot better. I found they still shifted a little bit in the like really bright colors.
Yeah.
Because it's going from wet to dry, so you get a little slight value shift in the really bright stuff. But I just had like my airbrush on hand, so I could dry it immediately and see what color it was going to dry to. But that's tough because you got to, and I can totally relate to Ray's frustration with this, because that means you have to, with those kinds of acrylics, especially acrylics that aren't that higher quality, those Winsor Newton professional ones, that means you have to like guess your mix. You have to kind of mix a color that may look way brighter when it's wet and expect it to dry darker. That's tough. That's really hard.
Yeah. That just drives me crazy. I don't know. But it's just me. That that's a Ray problem.
No, it's. I think I totally relate. I want to try more miniature paints, because I know Wayne Reynolds does all of his illustration in miniature paints, and I don't know if miniature paints suffer as badly from that dry shift.
They're just basically thinned down. That's right. That's my understanding is that they're thinned down and they're almost
Yeah.
like fluid acrylics, right?
Yeah, essentially. The ones I worked with were all Citadel ones, but I also have
Right.
Reaper ones, which are really great. How did we get on this? We're not talking about movies at all. Like these.
I don't know,
the
man.
chat's
You
gonna be
went off
upset.
on some tangent about this and that. I don't know. Kate's asleep now, so that's
Yeah,
you know, like
we
look
lost
what
the moderator.
we lost her.
I wish I was asleep. Hey, Ding Dong. King Ghoul asks, do you guys think master studies are a good way to improve? And if you did master studies in the past, how did you approach them?
I
Oh
haven't done a
hell yeah.
lot, but I totally think that they're super useful. Seeing how an artist solved things intimately like that and figuring out how to color match are really important things.
Yeah. Yeah.
I copied comics all the time as a kid, so like that stuff's incredibly useful.
Yeah. So it all depends on the artist, what they get from it. I mean, I could tell you when I was learning digital painting, I did master studies of illustration, like oil paintings, to try and kind of get the same quality, and in my digital work, and I thought that was just invaluable. I don't do them often, but I know a lot of artists that do, and it works great for them. Namely, the first person off the top of my head that does it and is incredible about it is Jeff Watts. He runs the Watts Atelier, and if you look him up on YouTube, WATTS, you'll see him do tons of master copies and stuff, and he doesn't need to do them. He's so good, but he's like a professional. He's constantly working to get better and better and better, and for him it's enjoyable. So I absolutely would recommend doing that if it's not a waste of time at all.
Yeah, it's good
I
stuff.
yeah. So
And I might be mistaken, but I think Jeff has that as part of his curriculum because Lucas
yeah, it
Gratiano,
does.
who went there, he had some master studies that were like on the wall, and I think it's just part of their curriculum, which is great because I don't think we had
Yeah.
that really at the academy.
We copied sometimes. In depended on the class. Like Mark Tennant had us copy a drawing, like either a Rembrandt painting or a Pierre Proudhon drawing,
Oh, okay.
or Bill Mon had us in his head painting class copy a Rembrandt.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And
I had Zhao Ming's. We didn't copy anything.
yeah, yeah, right. So like Zhao Ming was just we looked at a lot of art, but we didn't copy any of it. So it's all whatever works. Copying it was an integral part of an artist's training
Yeah.
forever. So one thing drawings wise, I remember I did a lot of copying of the Charles Bark drawing course, BARGUE. That I did copy a lot, and I learned a lot from that. And that was meant to kind of teach artists. It was back in the 19th century in France. It was like a high school course, essentially the equivalent of one, to prepare high schoolers for art school, to getting applications ready and getting their drawing up to snuff. And it is incredible. So you could get all of them for free online. I think there's an actual Instagram account where it posts all the plates.
Oh really? Sure. That's cool.
BARGUE, yeah. And then you can get them collected in like a $10 book. Kate, does my audio sound okay? I never asked you.
Yes, much better. Thank you.
Cool.
But I mean, I don't know. If you're out there in your art communities, don't let anyone say like, "Oh, you should never do copies." Do copies. It's really important.
Yeah.
Copy stuff all the time. Trace stuff. Whatever you got to do. It's important to use those things as studies. Obviously, don't trace anybody's work for your final work, but just like we've talked about on LiveBrush before, tracing and copying are all really helpful in teaching you how to draw, teaching you how to see art, teaching you how to understand what other artists are doing. and that all goes to your own art education. It's really important. So don't let anybody poo-poo it.
And it's all many roads to Rome, and just drawing from life too is I find that really helpful for myself.
Yeah, me too.
I'm always doing that as much as I can.
I love making stuff up, but man, when I'm drawing from life, it goes fast because of all the information's right up there. And it's just so enjoyable. The things you have to solve and the mental energy you have to use when you're just making stuff up is huge.
Yeah.
So, I'm when I go and take the time to get a bunch of really good reference for a piece, because sometimes I like to make stuff up and just have the joy of doing that. But when I go and get all kinds of really cool reference, the job just goes so much faster. So get your reference out there, folks.
Ding dong. From Eric Davisheim. Question. Do you guys have any advice about keeping up with a consistent practice regimen while also doing paid work? I've been getting a steady stream of illustration gigs for about a year now. Congratulations.
Fantastic.
And I've found it's been tough to juggle consistent art exercises along with deadlines.
Oh, man. I'm not going to be good on helping you with this because I don't have time to do that. The jobs become the practice. But I totally encourage it. Good.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I encourage it. And whenever I can find the time to do like a portrait painting like we do on LiveBrush or just messing around like I'm doing right now, I try to do it. It's just, I feel your pain. It's very hard to find the time to do those kinds of things.
Right. But that's the answer, right? That's the reason why that's part of the reason why we started LiveBrush was to do practice stuff. Like we would do portraits, and we got like our first couple of episodes was us doing pet paintings, portrait painting.
Those are great.
Why? Because we love doing them, and we wanted an excuse to do it. Because otherwise, sometimes, at least for me, I know it's if I'm working on like either illustration work or gallery work. My personal work is my work, and so, I don't have. I don't. It's got to be for me if I'm gonna have the attitude like I have to do so much work that if I'm gonna practice, it's got to be a thing. It's got to be for something.
Yeah.
And it's because I feel really bad for taking time out of my busy schedule to then practice, even though it's important to do that. So. My advice to you is just make the time and make it feel like it's a productive use of time, and just rationalize it. And that's what LiveBrush did for Tyler and I. And so like Tyler would otherwise, right, Tyler? I mean, like this is the excuse to go on ZBrush and work and practice.
Yeah, for sure.
And,
I think that's been. I think we talked about it too a few times. Like that's been an issue for me is I feel like I've done almost no personal work in 12 years. So LiveBrush was a way for us to kind of do some fun stuff, even if it wasn't even like a big personal project. Maybe it was just a portrait of Kurt Russell,
Yeah. Call me Snake. But we learned a lot. I mean, I learned a lot from those paintings. I remember the horror painting I did. I learned a ton about. It just got me back into doing underpaintings. And I was like, man, it's just so much fun. I should try more and more of it, So it allows you to experiment, and we would, so it's an excuse to do all that stuff. But yeah, the regiment's it's tough, and I totally feel you on it. Maybe you could, but just make it a project for yourself. I think that's what we did. And it doesn't have to be anything grandiose. It could just be like an Instagram account where you're like, okay, you do that's why people do challenges like 30 days or 30 heads or 80 heads or 100 heads. And then you can take that, and some people have taken it and put it in the books or been part of a portfolio that's gotten them work. That's, yeah.
Yeah, you could treat it as like a warm up. These are all things I tell myself I should do. So you could like treat it as a warm up, put it on a timer, only do it for a little bit in the morning or something before you get to work, and then you're kind of in the mood to be creative. You could try it that way. There's a lot of different approaches. Unfortunately, I don't take my own advice on this, so I'm not gonna be able to give you great advice.
Yeah, but you do take your advice though. That's why we're doing LiveBrush. So that's why we're
true.
spending
That's true.
2 hours. Hey, I'm trying to like say that you're doing a good job, and then you keep saying you're not. Listen, you're not like
Let me beat myself
acting
up a
on your
little bit.
advice. I don't take my own advice, but you do take your. Actually, you don't take your own advice. You take my advice, which is and Kate's advice.
This is true. Oh, this is a non sequitur, but I keep trying to pinch zoom on my screen, which I can't do.
He's running the stream, folks. Hey, ding dong. From Nick DeLuca, 96. When working on a character, how do you think about the silhouette?
Depends on the solve. I tend to think in big shapes. And
what do you mean? What do you mean by solve?
Okay, so it depends on the purpose. So most of the time when I'm designing characters, it's for like Magic or D&D or something. So this when I say the solve, there is I'm thinking about like what is the purpose of this character? Like what's the overall mood and feel and intention of using this character? So for Magic, it's usually a planeswalker, and they have a particular mechanical representation in the game that you have to represent in the character's body somehow. Great art director friend of mine, Jeremy Jarvis, would always call like they have to wear the thing that they do. They can't, if the character in Magic does a particular magical effect, they can't always be doing that effect. They can't always be depicted as doing that effect. So in some way or another, they have to wear it. And that becomes the main touchstone on how you develop that character. If it's a character for D&D, oh, look at this little screensaver that comes up in ZBrush when you're not paying attention. If it's a character for
D&D, and you're done.
Yeah, and I'm done. Did it. If it's character for D&D, it tends to be more like what's the overall mood of this character and what they represent in the storytelling. So those are really important solves for me to start with, because that helps me inform like the overall gesture and shape. So I always start big shape and go to little shape, if that is helpful to your question. Start with big shapes, especially if you're creating a character from nothing. Start with big, interesting shapes. It doesn't have to be like big, like World of Warcraft, big shapes, where World of Warcraft is very stylized. It doesn't have to be those kinds of big shapes. It can be however you want, but think about those initial shape solves as an overall silhouette read before you start getting into the little fidelity, which is exactly what I didn't do with this orc head.
You don't take your own advice.
I'm
That's
going
crazy.
right into the detail. It's hard to save the detail. The detail's fun, man. It's hard to save that stuff till the end.
Yeah. God, by the way, I just want to say, watching you do ZBrush makes you just want to jump on Nomad, and
yeah,
I should do a stream. Maybe do a stream. Maybe I gotta do it on. I gotta get Blender rolling, like the sculpting part of Blender,
which I hear is very good. So yeah, you should definitely get
it's basically ZBrush light, very light.
All right, I'm going to do something that I always have a hard time doing in ZBrush, and that's putting in orbits. I'm going to put in this guy's eyeballs.
While you're putting in eyeballs, ding dong, Raphael Lucchini asks question, how do you photograph your paintings? And what's your equipment setup that you use to shoot them?
Ray.
Boy. 2 words. Howard Lyon.
Yeah, he was a big savior for me.
So when photographing work that is reflective, like oil paintings or just anything that's like wet, reflections are and highlights, and the paint catching the highlights are just the worst thing ever, right? You have to constantly fight that. So, and this is all actually through Howard Lyon. Is it Lyon or Lyons, Tyler?
It's Lyon.
Lion,
You're
right?
thinking of
Okay, so
Richard Lyons, who works on the Naughty Dog games.
oh yeah, so okay, so
But yeah,
Howard Lion,
Howard's a fantastic illustrator, and he's taught me
incredible. So he gave Tyler this whole sort of process of photographing, how he photographs his work, and that was basically you use polarizing filters, linear polarizers on light. So it's just like a film. If you type in linear polarizing
Yeah.
film, you'll find it. And so that stuff goes over your lights, right? And what that does is it polarizes the lights. And anything that you are, as long as you have, now the second part is, that's the first part. The second part is you got to have your camera with a polarizing filter as well.
Yeah,
And so, and
otherwise
you
it just
used,
doesn't work.
it doesn't work, right? And so, if you use a circular polarizer, and the reason why it's circular is because it changes angles so that it can work in different types of lighting conditions or light angles. So when you polarize your camera and the light's polarizing it, then all of the circular polarizer is lined up perfectly with the angle of the light. The highlights will just vanish from your
It's
piece.
magic.
It's magic, yeah. And I actually have a circular polarizer right now on the main camera, my iPhone, so that no one, you don't get these weird glare marks on camera. And so it's really great. It's completely saved my life on that. Now I will say you can photograph your paintings in bright sunlight outside. Some people say, "Oh, I'll put it in the shade and photograph it." That's never worked for me. There's an artist by the name of Mark Carter, Carder, on YouTube. Just type in Mark Carter photographing your paintings, and he shows you actually how to do it outside in the sun. And it's
In the sun?
in the sun. So you do it in the sun, and you stand in the shadow. So whatever it reflects, it's reflecting darkness. So it's not going to reflect your shirt or anything like that.
Holy smokes! I haven't seen. I got my palette from Mark, from Mark's videos. But wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, and that's how I would photograph all of my work. Problem is, where I live, there's long winters.
Yeah, he's in like Arizona or something. So
Yeah, and so then what happens when you're done with a piece and you got to photograph it at night? Whoop,
yeah,
and you can't wait till the next morning. So it's like a temporary measure, and that's basically the video was meant for. That's not he does. I'm sure he uses polarized lights and stuff to photograph his own work. So this thing that Tyler was had talked about with via Howard is just incredible. So
yeah, it was a big help, and I don't know if Howard's out there watching, but man, it saved my life.
Howard, he
you
woke up.
Yeah, it used to be this massive struggle for me all the time, but now I can, because I have the polarizers over my lights. I'm painting in those exact same lighting conditions. I can just grab my camera with the circular polarizer on it while the paint is wet and just plop my camera right in front of it and get a perfect slide off of it. And then I can just touch it up or whatever I need to do and turn it in. Like, it's super quick.
Yeah.
As opposed to before, it was like, oh, I'm not getting the color right. The lighting's not right. What am I doing here? So, I don't know. It's been a lifesaver to get that instant photography. The magic thing about it is the polarizer really is just incredible, because if your painting is doing weird things with glare and matte quality, like some pigments will dry matte, and by matte I mean they don't look very shiny, and that tends to knock them up a value, so they don't look as dark as they could. And you typically with oil paint, you have to oil out. You have to put oil down to get that darkness to come back. With this polarizer, just looking through it, you can see all the areas that are matte are super dark. They look like they're wet paint. It's amazing. So I don't have to wait for the painting to dry anymore.
It's incredible. Yeah, I'm totally, yeah. It is, you know what's funny is that I don't think I would have bought all that stuff if it wasn't on, like, I was working on a show, I think, at the time.
Yeah, you needed a bunch, right?
And I needed it. I needed it. I couldn't I couldn't bring the dumb things outside. Or actually, I had to have, that's what it was. I couldn't photograph it outside because when I put the paintings had to be photographed in their frames.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
And so
that's right.
when the sun was hitting it, it was casting a shadow on the painting. And I was like, no.
Yeah,
And
you're gonna get a crazy shadow.
yeah. And that was what was happening. And so I bought all that stuff, and I never looked back.
And what I think is enjoyable, and you probably noticed this, is if you have those controlled lights with the films over them, you can place them almost anywhere to light the painting. So,
Yep.
Ray, I assume you were able to have no shadows around the frames by placing the lights sort of almost directly at it. And then the polarizer will cut off any light coming from any other angle. So it's just perfect. It's a perfect way to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm all about that. I'm all about that. It's great. And then now that I come to, after, of course, I learn all this, I find out that, like, oh yeah, it's a common thing that photographers do, or people who actually work in 3D, like when they do like mega scans or like any textures, they use polarized lights all the time.
Yeah.
They use polarized because they don't want the reflections, right?
Yeah,
they don't want the specular reflections.
That makes sense.
So I was like, what? How did I operate in just utter ignorance for so long?
We can't know everything, Just can't know everything.
We can't be, not all of it. You can't be Howard.
Yeah.
That's what we should, that should be like a grade. Like, it's like, well, it's no Howard, but it's okay.
Howard's awesome. Howard's an awesome guy. And
don't you guys talk about multiple Howards though?
Oh, which Howard are we talking about?
Are you yeah, which Howard are you talking about? Is it Howard Lyon or Howard Pyle?
Howard the Duck?
Howard the Duck? You guys have mentioned so many Howards on this show.
That's the new title of the show. Is, how many Howards can we mention in one
stream? Howard, you doing? Hey, Ding Dong.
Oh, no.
This isn't a question, but it's a great thing that Stabby Rogue Games has to say. He says, one of the best things about the show is that I know so little about the technical or historical aspects of painting. I feel like I'm sitting down the bar from a couple of wizards talking about how to do magic.
That's awesome.
Love that.
Thanks, Stabby Road. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Very sweet. Speaking of magic, Ding Dong, when submitting work for big clients like Wizards of the Coast, how good of an idea is it to deviate from that client's, quote, established tropes, for lack of a better word? Like, if I wanted to work for Magic the Gathering, is it a good idea to send a piece that depicts a demon as a good guy?
I think that's fine. Those things happen in Magic all the time. But you wouldn't want to... I guess you would want to be careful of style. I think that's the biggest thing. You'd want to be careful about style. I think you can present all kinds of different tropes to a company like Magic because they're constantly going to new worlds. There's all kinds of new tropes that they could play around with. So just showing that you can solve different subject matter is great for them. But stylistically, you might want to be careful. They tend to have one style across the brand, which may or may not change in time, but you wouldn't send them a portfolio full of cartoon illustrations, let's say, like Pixar. Right. You wouldn't send them a portfolio of that because that's not within their brand. But I think you're safe kind of showing stuff that's the content is different. I think that's fine.
That's great advice. Yeah, know your client. And just whenever, whether it's even gallery work, or if it's like for any, like a publication of some sort, like a book cover, just know your client. And the same advice is for Magic. It's like, you would probably say this. I've heard very similar stuff when it comes to like Blizzard as well, or at least when you were approaching, like if you were sending them art, you had to be aware of the style that they worked in
Right.
if you wanted to work on, their properties.
Right, which I think happened to me early in my career, which I tend to be like realistic when it comes to the stuff I'm figurative, right? So I paint pretty realistic images, as realistic as I can get them, I guess. But at the time when I was trying to get Blizzard work for their card game, it was pretty stylized. So that was the feedback I got, that my work was stylized, I mean, not stylized enough for the work that they were doing. The dogs are going to get to eat here, everybody. I think Kate's still on mic. Yeah.
Hot
I'm
mic.
feeding
Hot
the
mic.
doggies. I'm gonna mute
Frodo's
myself.
gonna eat. But yeah, anyways, great question about portfolio stuff, and Ray's got, that's the perfect answer. Know who you're showing. Show them work that looks like the work that they create, the work that they publish. It's a no-brainer when it comes to them. If they see work that looks like the work they publish in your portfolio, it's like, you're just in, like you're going to be doing work with them. But if you show them a whole bunch of other stuff that isn't, then they kind of have to do a little mental gymnastics to kind of guess as to whether you're going to work well with their brand. So just be careful there.
Didn't Manchess say that? Greg Manchess. If you've never heard of Greg Manchess, he did the Captain Morgan logo, Captain Morgan. The Captain Morgan. And he's a legend. Manchess.
Yeah, one of my favorite
Greg
artists
Manchess.
of all time.
Oh my God. And one of the just nicest people you'd ever meet. But Greg would say, I remember hearing him talk in a video or something like that. I think it was like a demo video he did called Above the Timberline.
Oh, yeah.
And which became a book. And he was saying that your work's got to look like it could have been published by that client. Like, it's like one of those, like, oh, was that in the magazine? Oh, was that a book cover? That looks like something that they would publish. So it's got to look like that. And so before, they'll take you on, in a sense, because they have, every client has different needs, and
that's the
there's
best
so
possible
many
outcome, is tricking them into thinking that they published it, right?
Yeah. We hire you, right? Yeah. Oh yeah, totally. It's like I did. Let's get into a whole other thing. So when you get the job, if they say like you're great, you're great to work with, and you're on time, you're professional, they'll want to hire you again, right?
Yeah.
At least that's the hope. And so I remember I was doing some illustrations for, and I can say this publicly because it's been years since I've done it. For Savor magazine, which was a food magazine. It's still around. That was like my first editorial magazine job, and it was awesome. It was so great. And so the art director moved from there, and he became a creative director for all of these other smaller magazines under the same umbrella corporation that Savor was under. And so he called me up and said, "Hey, do you do ships and stuff? Like, nautical stuff?" It's like, I got this illustration. I think you'd be great for it. It was for Cruising World magazine. And I had never drawn a ship in my life, right? Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I remember you and I were what'd you say?
What was your answer though?
Oh, my answer was like, yeah. Oh
Yes,
man,
sir,
I love I love painting ships. I love it. Love it. So,
That's always your answer, folks. That's always your
Yeah.
answer. Yes, I can do that.
So
and I love doing it.
I love doing it. So just say yeah, and then figure out how to get out of there. So, or how to pull it off. So I had to learn about ships, and they were, they scrutinized rope configurations and everything. I mean, they had an editor that was looking at all these things because their readers, I should say, were own ships.
Yeah.
So they would know if something was if something's off. It's like if you were reading a comic book on Spider-Man and all of a sudden Spider-Man's got like a different configuration of a costume randomly or a different color, and you're like, what's this? Like Spider-Man doesn't look like this, you
Yeah.
know. So it's the same thing, and so yeah, everything worked out great though. I still like that illustration today, but what was I? What was that? Why was I saying that? Oh yeah, so that's just a side piece of advice too. So,
Oh, that's awesome, man.
well, but I'm sure that I know that's happened to you a ton of times, Tyler.
Well, I mean, yeah, I've definitely had ones where like I didn't know what I was doing, and I was just like, yeah, heck yeah, I can do that. But this also kind of comes to a like I've had situations where I've been completely wrong for the job, and I've been, sometimes art directors just need to get a job done, so they'll ask you to do it. So those ones are where I'm sort of like, I'm not the right person. You kind of have to say that sometimes. Like, this isn't me. I don't do that work. And
Yeah,
that can be scary stuff, because you're like, well, now this client's never going to want to work with me again because I just told them how to do their job or something. But you're not really
yeah,
doing that. You're just saying like, this isn't me. This isn't the work that I do. So thank you,
yeah,
but no thanks.
and that's something that comes with time and establishment and things like that. I mean, because obviously when you're first starting out, you're just saying yes to everything because you're just trying to get the bills paid,
Yeah, 100%.
and but then it comes a point where you can pick and choose what it is that you want to work on because you've become established enough that you can, people know what to expect from you, uh, and they like your work and they want a lot of it, and so that's when you can, just from like working on that, just from having a career and doing this for a bunch of years, is that saying yes to something that you're not a good fit with, is it's not going to be a good use of your time. It's not going to be a good use of the art director's time. And I know a lot of them appreciate it when you say that, when you say I'm really not a good fit. I don't think I'll do this for you. But it's scary too. You have to have confidence with it. I mean, because you don't know how they're going to receive it. But
Right,
it's
and the art
mm,
director, in most cases, they want you to be excited about the job.
right.
So by letting them know like, this isn't really my fit, that's another way of saying like, this doesn't get me super excited, and that in turn isn't going to get you the best product in the
Right.
end. Yeah, what else we
Yeah.
got?
Well. I just think that about like if you ever do fine art shows too, for those who are getting into galleries, galleries would do the same thing. I had a gallery that was pretty prominent when I first out of school. Um, it was in Park City, Utah, which is a really affluent area, well known for the arts. And I was super excited. I was like, man, I can't believe I'm in a gallery like this. And it just wasn't a right fit. I wanted to do different work, and the galleries will ask you to do things all the time, like because they certain galleries will say, I mean, your galleries will let you know what is working, like, hey, your still lifes, these scenes, are really popular with with the clientele here. Great, so you send them more of those. But I'm not talking about that. It's more so, early on in your career where they're saying, can you do this? Can you do that? And they start suggesting subject matter um, to kind of fit their clientele. And if you just have to be honest with them in a sense of like, no, I don't do that. I remember the gallery had asked me, "Is like, do you got any car scenes of people like working on cars?"
Wow.
And I was
I'm
like,
glad you're talking about this. I've been
"Mm,
wondering what
yeah,
that is like. That's
yeah, and
amazing to me that they would presume that.
it's right because as it's you would think as an artist, right? It's like, well, no, if I don't do that, it's not I'm not interested in that. But they don't know what they don't know, in a sense. And the only reason why I gave them, so my advice, the response that I gave him was straight up from advice that I got from Craig Nelson, who would say, like, never say no, okay? Especially early on in your career with something like that. Instead of saying, I don't do that, say, that's a great idea. I don't currently do that, but I will let you know as soon as if I do, for sure.
Oh
And
yeah.
that way, it's just not like, you're not putting your foot in the drawing a line in the sand and saying like no to them. And so it's a little bit more of a diplomatic uh, sort of response to it, and it worked out well for me. I mean, I ended up getting dropped from the gallery because
Didn't
the
have
work
any
just
cars?
wasn't a fit. Yeah, it didn't have any cars, and it's just and if it's not a good fit, it's not a good fit, and that's okay.
Yeah,
That's
same goes for clients, like
yeah, man.
illustration clients. If you don't like working with them, go find somebody, someone you like working with. You should like
Yeah,
working with someone. If it's not a good fit, it's not a good fit.
it's a huge world out there with a lot of interest and people who demand for you know certain types of work, and it's just about finding that right audience to to help support that, because not everyone's gonna like everything. Not everyone's gonna like your stuff, and you just got to be okay with that, and just have an eye on just getting better, being objective about your work, and doing the best work that you can. And if you do that and you do it consistently and you commit to it, you're going to build an audience. Especially if you're putting your work out there and engaging with people. Um, but
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, but I digress.
I see a question out there from Raphael Lucchini. I don't know if I said that right. But okay, what's the question? When painting in oils, do you light both your painting and your palette with the same bulb light temperature? I do 100%.
Yes.
Yeah, it makes it really hard to mix colors if you don't. So I have my palette positioned in such a way that it's actually getting hit by the same lights that are lighting my painting.
Yes. If you're working with color, yes, absolutely. If you're doing black and white, just monochromatic stuff, you don't necessarily have to worry about that. But oh my goodness, if you it's such a nightmare. If you don't have good lighting is so key. Like, have a good, strong directional light source illuminating your painting, same type, same temperature illuminating your palette. You got to have those in sync with each other, because painting's so hard. It's hard enough, and
don't make it
just
harder
throw
on
that.
yourself.
Don't make it harder. Don't make it harder. Like, let other people do that. But it's just an issue, because if you don't know if it's an issue, that there could be, you might go throughout your whole life not understanding why your paintings look weird. And so, for those of you that don't know, if you have a warm light which casts like an orange glow on things, like orange, yellow, orange, different severities of orange, different flavors of orange. It's like slight tint to it, and a cool light, which is more of like a blue tint. That will change the way you look at your colors, or the way the colors appear. And so if you have one orange light, I'll give you an example. Actually, you could try this at home. Go up to a window that doesn't have sunlight coming in during the day, and put on like a blue shirt or something like that, and take a photograph of that shirt in that, illuminated by the window light, the stuff that's coming in from the clouds. And then at night, turn on like just a regular desk lamp and put the same blue shirt underneath it, and take a photo of it. And if you analyze those two pictures, you would think they were two completely different shirts, because the temperatures of light affect the way you're looking at that color. And so if that's severe, imagine doing that in your painting. It's like a nightmare. So all the colors that you're mixing look one way on your palette, and look a completely different way on your painting if the temperatures aren't consistent. And so that will lead to really weird, funky effects. But if you're not aware of that, that could just, you might think like, well, I just don't understand paint or color. And really, it's just a lighting thing. So just buy 2 of the same light bulb,
Yeah. Yeah, I have grid lights that it's like a box of LEDs that you can change the temperature with. So you can change the Kelvin temperature. And sun, you kind of want to be near sunlight temperature, which is 5600.
5500 usually
55.
55 is usually is neutral.
So I try and keep
Yeah,
mine in there. I tend to bring it down just a little bit, but also be really aware of brightness. I have had it where I've worked with way too bright of lights, and then once you move the painting out of that lighting condition, it looks super dark, like pitch black almost, because you've been painting in this incredibly blown out situation. So if you can get lights where you control the brightness, or just watch the lumen count to make sure you're not like in absolutely crazy, like way brighter than sunlight would be brightness, because that'll just really affect the way the painting looks in real life when it's hanging in someone's house. And when it's hanging in someone's house, it's not in this incredibly bright lit scenario, so you want it to stand out even in a gallery or in someone's living room. So try and match that light brightness. That's really key.
God, we can we could do a whole 2 hours on just talking about lights. I mean, it's so it depends on the artist. I mean, some people, was it Bill Mon, didn't he get the same lights as his gallery had? Like the same exact ones.
He said he got the same bulbs and same everything, so that
Same track lighting and everything.
Yeah.
So he knew that if it looked good, if it looked one way on his easel, it was going to look the same way in his gallery. But then the question is, what if you have multiple galleries?
Yeah, but if
we never thought to ask him that.
Multiple galleries, or what if the person who buys it doesn't have that lighting condition at all?
Right. Yeah, it's true. Yeah. Well, then it's kind of out of your hands, But or like, what if the gallery changes the bulbs? They'll tend to do that too.
Seeing if I'm missing any questions in here, guys.
Oh yeah, sorry,
I think we got a lot.
Oh yeah. Hold on 1 second here. I'm gonna pop back and resize my.
So while Ray's doing that, I'm saying hi to everybody. It's good to be back.
Great to be back. Yeah, so Monkey House says there's a Nat Geo series on Disney Plus with Will Smith, and they go into an ocean at one point. You could watch his shirt go from red to blue as they go deeper. It's pretty cool. Yeah,
that's great. Yeah, and that's what would happen.
That's super cool.
There's there's a really great scene in one of the Guardians of the Galaxy movies that illustrates like what light, like how light dictates the color of a scene. How the color of the light dictates what the color is. It's entirely relative to the color of the light. And it's a scene where like Gamora's in some lighting scenario. She's on the ship, but she's got green skin and she's standing in super red light. And so it's hitting her skin and it's just completely gray where the red light is hitting her, because it can't possibly shift it. It's just canceling it right out. And it's a great way to see them. Oftentimes I have to send, I wouldn't say oftentimes, but every once in a while I have to send feedback to the feedback that I've received from an art director, where they're asking, let's say they're asking, well, this blue dragon is in this fiery cave and he needs to look really blue. And so my feedback has to be like, well, understanding the color envelope here is it can't possibly be very blue because it's being lit by orange light. So it's the same in that Gamora scene. It's like, but it's photographed, so it's just proof right there. There's no art director could come in and say, we need to make sure she's still green in that red light. There's no way for it to happen because she's physically painted green. So it's a great way to see how color theory actually works in true optics.
It's pretty wild. It's pretty wild. And it's a phenomenon that, like, you have what's called light temperature, so warm and cool, like we were talking about, warm being orange, cool being blue, but also in color, you also have what's called local color, right? Think red shirt, blue pants, yellow hat, right?
Yeah.
And so if you have something that is cool, which means that it's blue, influenced by blue, in like a blue shirt in cool light, it's going to be enhanced. It's going to look even cooler. So, or it's going to be richer in saturation. But the opposite's true. So if you put a warm light in over a blue shirt, it's actually going to look green. And you could, again, check the photographs for yourself, or just take a punch a hole through a white or gray piece of paper, and just isolate the color and study it, and you'll see. Or just make a hole with your your finger, and just study the light on the object under those different lights, and you'll see what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and
so that's
you can do exactly what Ray's saying. Sorry to interrupt, man. Go ahead.
You're not sorry.
No, I don't care. No. No, but you can do exactly what Ray's saying with your paints, right? You can put them on a palette, put all your paints out on the palette, and then bring them into a different lighting condition and photograph it with your phone. Just photograph it in both conditions, and you'll see how different the colors become.
That's a great idea. That's like a really great idea. I'm glad I thought it up. So yes. So like I said, take your paints and bring them in the different lights. Take your palette, and you'll see what we're talking about. It's nuts. It's nuts. That's the thing. If you don't see it, you don't know that it's actually happening.
Yeah, and then it's a huge shock, especially with physical paint. It's a big shock. You're like, whoa! Especially if you're used to digital stuff, where it's going to be pretty similar. I mean, obviously, you're going to get different colors on different monitors that are calibrated differently. But, what's on your screen ends up being fairly close to what's going to print, unless you have some really crazy stuff going on. And a lot of us have compensated for this. But when you see it happen with physical paint in different lighting conditions, it throws you off a lot. So it's just something to be really aware of. Let's see, what questions we got? Have we missed any, Nat Geo? Oh, do we plan to make a sketchbook episode? That'd be really cool. Maybe we should do that at some point. I like that.
Yeah. Well, I would love to. Yeah, we should. I would love to get back and do some, or even just do some drawing, for sure. Like break out just do a mixed media drawing. I would love to do that.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Like I did for that. Did you ever do a drawing for any of the seasons? Was it just me?
I think it was just you. I don't know. Maybe the chat knows. I don't remember doing one. I mean,
so did the legend one.
Like when I did that Spaceman one that we did like all season 2 where we were doing the process.
Yeah.
I started out with like a sketch drawing on that.
Okay.
So I've done one drawing in my life. Just the one. I'll never do it again.
Well, in the last season too, that's all you did was drawing.
Well, yeah, and that's why why I'm fatigued on drawing, and I don't want to. That's why you're because of those 99 episodes that we did that I didn't record. Let's see what the next question is. We talk about Procreate. Have you toyed with making your own brushes in there, and are you comfortable with using the brushes it comes with? Yeah. I find I tend to personalized brushes to suit me best, and wondering. Yeah, okay. So yeah, I do that. I make a lot of brushes. I've actually imported my Photoshop brushes, and I screwed around with those. A bunch of the brushes that come with it are great, and I tend to not go by what they're called, and I think Ray will agree with me on this, that whatever they're called is not actually going to be anything like the actual medium they're supposed to be representing. Yeah. So just find the ones that work, because whatever they've been called, everyone's experience with different mediums is different. Like the way you experience oil painting is probably going to be different from the way I experience oil painting. So whoever made that brush experienced oil painting differently from me. And the brush does not behave the way I expect oil paints to behave, or acrylics or gouache.
Right.
So I
Right.
tend to just ignore what they're called and see how I play around with them and see how they actually behave. And then I can find something useful in that brush. But I tend to tweak a lot of the settings quite a bit.
Yeah, and if you don't know what the settings are, you just, I mean, I always forget because I tweak them and then I just forget about it, and so I just like, okay, so I'll go back to YouTube and look up their tutorials. Procreate's actually really great about their support. Like they just have tons of tutorials and stuff like that, like little quick things like what means what, and they have a really robust brush engine. So
yeah, that's what I love about them.
Yeah, but you don't have to. That's one of those things too, like with Procreate and like with anything, really. If you're first, and this is not part of the question from was it from Nito, right? Which, by the way, thank you for the kind comments before. I saw your previous message there. So Nito was saying very, very nice things about us.
Thank you, Nito.
If for those of you that are just getting into digital, just take something that feels good and then go work with it. Don't feel that you have to know everything about the brush engine to make the perfect brush, then to do the perfect drawing.
Yeah, that's
so
not even
I use their
after.
Yeah, I use their standard brushes all the time, like all the time. I have one that I tweaked, like the acrylic brush. I tweaked, not the wet acrylic, but the regular acrylic. I tweaked it so that it feels more like an oil painting brush, but the way I paint oils. So it's like Tyler said, it's very different. Depends on who the artist is, but you can learn that stuff down the line. Just focus on the art making. Keep it simple.
Yeah, and I encourage people to even in Photoshop, the brush does not matter, man. Like when you're painting a painting, you're painting with one brush that's at different sizes most of the time. So just challenge yourself to just take a round brush in Photoshop and just paint an entire painting with just a round brush, or find one brush. I tend to use one brush in Photoshop. Find one brush that maybe has a cool texture and just paint everything with that, because it's not about the brush. It's about how you paint with it. It's about the mark making that you make, which is just like,
well said.
How many people use that brush that Ray's using right now? I mean, it's sold in stores. Tons of people probably use it, but it's about
this is a Ray Bonilla signature brush.
But it's about how he wields it, how he's learned to manipulate the paint with it. And it's the same with digital tools. Like, it's not really a big deal what the brush is. It's about how you learn to use it. What are we doing? Let's see. Go ahead. I'm going to look at other questions.
No. I stepped over your excellent point, but yes, I 100% agree. And it's stuff that I need to take into consideration too when I'm doing things like learning new mediums like 3D. Is just like get in there, just learn the basic fundamentals, and then just start building it. And so it's just worry about learning the principles. I think it's super, super important. My first brush, I was a free pencil brush that I downloaded. I Googled free Photoshop brushes, free pencil brushes, and I got the first one from a blog. Probably had a virus for all I know, right? And I painted with that thing for years. So much so, when we were so I was lucky enough to get a award from the medal from the Society of Illustrators, and
lucky enough. Give me a break. You made a hell of a painting, sir.
Well, thanks. But we was hanging in this gallery with all these oil paintings, right? And the president of the Society of Illustrators came up to me and said, it's so great to see a real, like an actual oil painter on this, because it's just, I'm so sick and tired of seeing all this digital stuff. It's so great to see something that's real. You know what I mean? Not some print. And I was like, yeah, I don't know how to tell you this, but it's actually was done in Photoshop, but it is a print, you know. And it was just a stupid pencil brush. I don't even know where I found it, you know. So it really didn't matter. So yeah, that's I digress.
No, I remember that. I remember that moment.
Yeah, you were there.
That was
Weren't
pretty
you
funny.
there?
Yeah, I
you
was
were
there.
right next to me. Yeah.
It was pretty funny because it's sort of like, well, see, but that story in itself goes to show that it really does not matter what you make the image with. And
Right.
I've seen really incredible like magic painting finishes, and when you zoom way in, the entire thing was done with just a round brush, the basic round brush from Photoshop. So it doesn't really matter, man. It's all about how you interpret the shapes in your own mark making. I'm not saying that your question doesn't matter. Don't get me wrong. I love screwing around with brush settings in Procreate all day, but just try and, I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm trying to encourage you to just mess around with all the brushes that are in there until you can find one that fits how you want to make marks. So what else do we got? Okay, what's we got this from, what do we got? Lord Adore Noble. I'm gonna butcher all these. I'm really bad at reading people's names. What's your personal character design pet peeves / things you like avoid when working on your characters? Okay. For me, God, there's so many. I have so many stupid little pet peeves when it comes to character design.
I want to hear this. I don't know if I've ever we haven't talked about this in a long time. I always love sitting down with people. Last time we talked about this was like with that I remember was IlluxCon actually years ago.
Oh yeah.
With Chris Ron.
Yeah.
And
Totally
I just
Chris.
sat back and I listened to you, both of you go off, and it was just great. It was great. Go ahead.
We both have some pet peeves for sure about certain things. Gosh, I think the one that comes to mind right away for me is a character that has like a sword slung on his back. I hate that. It shows up.
Come on, dude. That's cool.
It shows up in all fantasy everywhere. There's always someone with a sword, a giant sword, just like in The Witcher. Two giant swords in The Witcher.
Just gonna bring that up. He had two.
I just challenge all of you out there to go buy a big sword with a scabbard and strap it to your back and try to pull the sword out of the scabbard. And if you're actually able to do it, which I doubt you'll be able to do it because it's a huge long sword and your arm's not long enough to pull it out of there. But if you can pull it out of there, I challenge you to put it back in the scabbard that's on your back that you can't see. So I hate that the character carrying a sword and a scabbard on their back. I can't stand it. That's my pet peeve.
So you're saying you don't like He-Man, or you have issues with the character design? Because I'm taking offense to that.
I know it's fantasy and who cares, right? But I mean, it's just functional. You can't pull the thing out. You can't draw the weapon.
Or like I love in grad school we used to joke about the character with the shoulder armor that with the spikes.
Oh
that,
yes.
Like, he would like they would impale themselves if they went to go block someone's strike. You know.
Yeah, that is another huge. Yeah, they would like if they lift their arms up, they would totally just completely crush their head. You know, I'm winking out at you, game property that has really huge shoulder pads. Wink, wink, wink.
Oh my God.
Oh, you know what?
Never change.
I mean, maybe we can keep talking about this in the next episode, but we are at time here, sir.
Oh, wow. Oh, wait, listen. We got two new subs here.
Oh, really? Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, Joric Art and Lynn Larson Art. Both subscriber Prime. Thank you so much.
Thank you
really
so much.
Appreciate it. That's so awesome.
Maybe we can.
That is so awesome.
Maybe we can answer, unless you got to run. Maybe we can answer one more question.
Sure.
This one's asking us, do we know how awesome and beautiful we both are? So how do you want to answer? No, I mean, thank you. Thank you very much. But let me find another question here. What percentage of art directors that you guys have worked with have a robust arts background themselves? Shoot, I guess I'd
That's a
say
good
all of
question.
them, really. Very few of the art directors I've ever worked with don't have any art experience, but a lot of the ones I've worked with have a significant amount of art history, whether they have worked as art directors for a really long time and just know the brands that they work on, or they've had art training for a very long time. Most of the art directors I've worked with have been trained as artists.
Yeah, I mean, I've done like posters and like worked with people who weren't art directors, but rather like theater posters. They were theater directors, and when you don't have someone who's very familiar with like the visual language of 2D art, it could be really difficult. But
Yeah, man,
everyone
that's such
else,
a struggle
yeah,
when you have to
yeah,
explain art concepts to the supposed art director. That's
yeah,
tough
yeah,
because it's like I don't want to sound like a jerk here, but you
yeah.
you know you have to kind of get it through them that like they don't really know what they're talking about at that moment.
Right,
So
right. But to be honest, I mean, like, I haven't had that happen in a long time. I've
yeah,
been
me
fortunate
either.
enough to get some nice work. Like at this point in my career, work with people who are really smart. So it's uh, it's pretty awesome. Wow. Oh, we got a. Oh,
We got a
thanks for the
hype
100
train coming.
bits, Sapphire Harp. That's awesome.
Thank you so much. Let's see. Well,
uh,
before we sign off here, what is it? Oh yeah, we should bring Chris on one of these shows. I've kind of floated it to him. He's a friend of mine. He's a friend of ours actually, but he lives down the street from me. So I've floated it to him a few times about coming on, and we've actually Ray and I have discussed a few times about kind of trying to figure out how we can do guest appearances.
yeah.
And if they want to work, I don't know how we would set the screen up because it's two side by side. But it would be cool to bring on a guest and have them work. Maybe one of us could just sit out and they could work or
Yeah,
something.
we'll turn off. No, just turn off your camera. It's good.
We'll just turn off my camera and my audio, and then we're good to go. But yeah, I think we gotta call it here, folks. We gotta go off.
Yeah.
But this 2 hours flew by. Ray, your painting's looking
Yeah,
awesome.
man.
It's
Thanks,
coming
man.
together.
Love the sculpt, dude.
Here's
I
my
love the
crazy
sculpt.
little dude, everybody. I might do a painting next week. I might set up to do an actual oil painting next week. So
Wow.
I think I'm ready for it. I don't know. Maybe I'm not ready for it. But
Don't tease it and then bait and switch them. Okay.
okay, that's right. No, that's a good point. I'm not going to make any promises. Next week, you folks are going to be surprised at what I do. And Ray, what do you plan to do? You going to keep working on this guy?
Yeah, I'm gonna keep working on this guy and finish the underpainting. You know what I think I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just continue to work on this and show everyone how to go from acrylics to oils, and I'll show you how a little bit of glazing maybe if I
Oh, nice.
have the time on this thing. So, but yes, so thank you so much, everyone. It's really great to be back. Thank you for all the new subs, and the bits, and the wonderful kind comments, and the wonderful questions. We really, really appreciate it. I really, really do. And I just wanted to take a moment to thank everyone who's left a message on our Instagram as well. I read all of the messages on there, and so really, really appreciate the kind words and what the stream has meant to so many people. So that's super awesome, and we're glad to be back, and we're looking forward to bringing more shenanigans to you. So in the future and beyond.
We'll bring
Did
you.
you guys?
We'll talk
Did
about
you guys?
movies more next time. What's that?
We're at level 1 hype train at 69%. See that?
Whoa!
Yeah,
whoa.
yeah.
F in the chat. F in the chat for that.
Everyone in the chat. F in the chat all across.
F
And
in the chat to get.
we're on this hype train right as we're about to sign off too. I mean,
I've never seen the hype train. Is it like a?
Oh, I'll explain it to you. Choo choo, hype train, baby. Choo choo, choo choo.
Kate even has a whistle for this.
Oh yeah, I'll get my whistle out. Hold on.
We're still here,
Ready?
folks. We're still.
I even have a little conductor hat I used to put on when I was streaming. Here we go. Is it coming through?
No, it's
No, I think
amazing.
the
It's
noise,
not. I can hear it in the house, but
the noise
it's not
gate,
coming
the
through
noise
the
gate
mic.
was like, we
Microphone's,
don't
like,
want
stuck
that.
in the audio. Yep.
Well, it's
Large
a very
Nicholas
it's a very
has
cool
come.
wooden whistle sent by a fan. Amazing. But yeah, anyways,
God.
that's all for us today, everybody. How do we usually sign off? You know, we did those 99 episodes that I didn't record, and we were signing off with, you know, the
There was
craziest stuff.
like a
The craziest stuff.
12-minute solos and monologues from you.
Yeah.
So that's one
Ray
of the things
played a
I don't want
flute
to
at
do.
one point, which
Yeah.
is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
I did sort of a bagpipes thing for a little bit. There's a lot of
Very,
flute-like instruments.
Oh my God.
very, very hard to do when you're upside
This is,
down. But
now I remember why we have trouble signing off. It's because I always do it for you. Hey, make sure to follow the guys on Instagram at LiveBrush. We've got Ray at Ray Bonilla Painter. We've got Tyler at Tyler Jacobson Art. And we'll be back again next week. At least two of us will. And you're going to love it. Isn't that right, guys?
Indeed.
yes,
Thanks
indeed.
for
Thank
coming,
you,
Have a
everybody.
everybody.
wonderful night,
See
everybody.
you
Have
next
a great
week.
night.